stop crying, Ethan, please. Just for 5 minutes. The frustration in Olivia's voice cracks as she rocks the tiny boy in her arms, his face red from endless tears. She looks around the small apartment, the flickering light bulb above casting long, uneven shadows across peeling wallpaper. Her shift at the diner starts in an hour, and the sitter she trusted cancelled last minute again. Rent is due in 2 days. The sound of Ethan's sobs blends with the hum of the old refrigerator, and for a brief moment she closes her eyes, whispering, "Everything's going to be okay, baby, Mummy's here." Across the city, behind tinted glass and golden walls, a completely different world unfolds. The towering headquarters of the Wexler Group gleams under the morning sun. Inside, men in tailored suits move like shadows, efficient, silent, nervous. Because when Alexander Wexler walks in, no one dares to breathe too loudly. The CEO's presence is like a command in itself. Sharp, cold, and absolute. "Where's Ethan?" Alexander asks, his deep voice cutting through the silence as his secretary hurries beside him. "Home, sir," Mrs. Lang reported. "He refused another nanny this morning." Alexander's steps falter for the briefest second. "Another one?" "Yes, sir. That makes 100. Alexander finishes, his jaw tightening. He doesn't say another word. His assistants glance at each other nervously as he disappears into the elevator. Behind the polished steel doors, his expression softens just slightly. Just enough to reveal what none of them know. A quiet exhaustion that no amount of wealth can ease. His 5-year-old son hasn't smiled properly in months. Since her death, the doors open into a private floor. A quiet, modern penthouse built high above the city, meant for comfort yet filled with silence. The little boy sits by the window, clutching a small toy airplane, his blonde hair tousled, his eyes blank. "Ethan," Alexander says gently, walking toward him. No response. "I heard you didn't like Miss Clara. She smells weird." The boy mutters, "She was nice, Ethan. She's not Mummy." The words hit harder than any business deal gone wrong. Alexander kneels beside him, his voice low. "I know, buddy, but I don't want anyone else." Ethan's small voice trembles, his eyes wet. "They don't hold my hand right. For a man who controls empires, this is the one battle he can't win." He nods quietly, brushing a hand through his son's hair. "Okay, we'll keep looking." But even as he says it, there's a hopelessness behind his calm tone. They've interviewed nannies from every agency, some with years of experience, some with glowing recommendations, yet none of them lasted a day. Ethan would cry, scream, or hide. Some even left in tears. Down in the city's working-class streets, Olivia rushes through her double shift. The diner smells of coffee and exhaustion. She forces a smile at customers, her back aching, mind scattered between orders and her little boy waiting at home. She can't afford to lose this job, not after being laid off from 2 others in the past year. But life keeps stacking the odds. "Olivia, table 4's been waiting for 15 minutes. Her manager barks. "On it," she calls back, grabbing a tray. As she moves through the crowded tables, her coworker leans in. "Hey, did you hear? That rich guy, the Wexler CEO, he's hiring again. Like, for the 100th time. Poor kid keeps firing nannies or something." Olivia half smiles, half scoffs. "Rich people problems. Yeah, but guess what? The pay's insane. Triple what we make here in a month." The tray nearly slips from her hands. "Triple, girl. You could quit this dump forever." The idea lodges itself in Olivia's mind like a spark refusing to die. But she knows better. She doesn't have the resume, the degree, or the polished smile those agencies demand. She's just a single mom scraping by, with bills piling higher than her courage. Still, that night, when Ethan is asleep, she finds herself scrolling through job listings. Her tired eyes catching one ad with bold letters. "Private family seeks full-time caregiver for young child. Discretion and patience required." Her heart races. No name, no details, but deep down she knows exactly who it's for. She hesitates only for a second before hitting apply. Across town, Alexander stares at a new list of candidates, unimpressed. Background checks on all of them. He orders, "No exceptions." "Yes, sir," his assistant replies. "But there's one applicant with minimal experience." Then why is she on the list? Because she applied directly. No agency, no references, just this. The assistant slides a handwritten note across the desk. Alexander glances at it. Neat, simple, honest. "I don't have fancy training, but I know what it's like when a child needs love more than rules. If you give me one chance, I won't waste it." He reads it twice. Something about those words feels different, unpolished but sincere. He sighs. "Fine, schedule an interview." The next morning, Olivia stands in the Wexler Tower lobby, clutching her worn handbag, her thrift store blouse pressed as neatly as she could manage. Everything feels too shiny, too cold, too rich for her presence. When the receptionist calls her name, her knees nearly give out. Inside the penthouse, Ethan sits cross-legged on the floor, building a tiny block tower. When she walks in, he glances up briefly, then returns to his toy. Olivia's voice trembles as she greets him. "Hi, buddy." Alexander watches quietly from across the room, assessing. The woman before him looks nervous but genuine. There's no rehearsed charm, no polished confidence, just a mother trying her best. "You've worked in a diner?" he asks. scanning her thin resume. Yes, sir, mostly night shifts, and you think you can handle my son? She hesitates, then looks him directly in the eye. I think I can care for him. That simple choice of word care makes him pause, but before he can respond, a small voice interrupts. Do you have a kid? Ethan asks, eyes curious. I do, she says softly. He's 5, just like you. What's his name? Ethan. The boy blinks, momentarily intrigued like me. She nods. Yeah, like you. For the first time in months, a tiny smile flickers across his face, small, hesitant, but real. Alexander notices. He leans forward slightly, studying the subtle shift in his son's expression. Would you like to play for a bit? Olivia asks. Ethan nods, grabbing his blocks, handing her one. You can help. As they build together, laughter slips through the room, quiet at first, then bright and free. It's a sound Alexander hasn't heard since his wife's funeral. He doesn't say anything, doesn't want to break the spell. He just watches the way Ethan leans closer, the way Olivia listens patiently, how her tired eyes soften with warmth. After an hour, she stands to leave, thanking him for the opportunity. As the door closes behind her, Ethan turns to his father. Can she come back? Alexander freezes. You liked her. She didn't talk too loud, he says shyly, and she didn't smell weird. That simple statement makes something in Alexander's chest unclench for the first time in a long while. There's hope. Maybe she can, he says quietly, glancing toward the door. But what neither of them knows is that this small moment, this one unexpected connection is about to change everything. Because beneath the layers of class, wealth, and pain, two worlds are about to collide in ways neither could have predicted. And somewhere deep in the heart of this city, destiny just whispered its first word. The next morning, Olivia wakes before dawn. She doesn't own much that looks professional, so she wears the same blouse from the interview, ironed as perfectly as her old iron will allow. She ties her hair back, kisses her sleeping son's forehead, and whispers, "Wish me luck, my little man." Her stomach tightens as she takes the subway uptown. The train clatters through the tunnels like a heartbeat she can't calm. Around her, business suits and briefcases fill the seats, people scrolling on phones worth more than her month's rent. She clutches her small bag, inside it a photo of her son, her anchor. When she arrives at the Wexler residence, a tall woman greets her at the door, polished, expressionless. "Good morning, Miss Harris. Mr. Wexler and Ethan are expecting you." Inside, the penthouse feels even larger now that she's alone with it. Glass walls reveal a skyline drenched in gold sunlight. It's beautiful, but it doesn't feel warm, more like a museum than a home. Then, she sees him. Ethan sits at the dining table, breakfast untouched, his small hand tapping against the chair leg. When he notices her, his eyes brighten just slightly. "Hi." "Hi again," she replies, kneeling beside him. "Mind if I sit with you?" He shrugs, but there's a shy smile hiding beneath the gesture. Alexander appears from the hallway, already dressed for a meeting, every detail of him sharp and deliberate. "You're early," he says. "Habit," Olivia replies, her tone respectful but steady. "Good." Ethan doesn't like waiting. He glances toward his son, who's now eating quietly, a small miracle on its own. For a brief second, his gaze softens again before he clears his throat. "You'll be living here during the week. I expect discretion. Privacy is everything, I understand." He studies her for a long moment, as if trying to decipher what exactly makes her different, but she doesn't flinch under his stare. Finally, he nods and leaves for work, the click of the elevator echoing through the silence. When he's gone, Ethan leans closer. "He's always serious," the boy whispers, as if confessing a secret. Olivia smiles. "Maybe he just forgot how to laugh." Ethan giggles, the sound lighting up the room. "Then you can teach him." The day passes in soft rhythms: breakfast, story time, a walk on the terrace. For the first time in months, Ethan eats without a tantrum, plays without breaking down, and even takes a nap peacefully. When Alexander returns that evening, briefcase in hand, he's stunned to find his son asleep on the couch, a blanket draped over him. "He didn't nap before," Alexander murmurs, almost to himself. Olivia straightens up. "He was just tired. He needs patience more than routines." His eyes narrow slightly, not in anger, but in curiosity. "You talk like you've known him for years." She smiles faintly. Sometimes kids just need someone to see them, not fix them. Something about her words lingers long after she leaves the room. Alexander stands silently by the window, watching the city lights flicker below, wondering how a woman with nothing could somehow bring peace to the one thing his wealth never could. Days turn into weeks. Olivia settles into a rhythm. Early mornings, playtime, gentle lessons. The mansion starts to feel less like a fortress and more like a home. The staff, once distant, begin to smile when she walks by. Even the butler, who's worked there since Alexander was a teenager, quietly admits. The boy laughs again. "You've done what no one could, but not everyone is pleased." During a corporate dinner one evening, Alexander's fiancée, Vanessa Monroe, a striking woman from a wealthy family, notices the shift. She's beautiful, ambitious, and fiercely protective of her image. "You've been distracted lately," she remarks over champagne. "Busy," Alexander replies curtly. "With what? Or should I say, with who?" Her tone drips with insinuation. He sets his glass down. "She's Ethan's new caretaker. and suddenly your son's the happiest child in Manhattan. Please, Alex, don't tell me you're falling for some charity case. The words ignite a quiet anger in him. Watch your tone. Vanessa leans back, smirking. Fine, but when people start talking, don't say, I didn't warn you. That night, back at the penthouse, Alexander finds Olivia in the living room, helping Ethan draw a picture of a house. There's a stick figure with messy hair and a tall one with a briefcase. Between them, a woman with a smile. Who's that? Alexander asks. Ethan grins. That's you, Daddy, and that's me, and that's... He pauses, looking at Olivia, then whispers, Mummy. The room goes silent. Olivia's breath catches. She looks at Alexander, unsure of what to say. His eyes flicker with shock and something else, something raw. I'm sorry, she begins softly. But Alexander raises a hand, stopping her. No, don't apologize. His voice is low, almost fragile. He remembers. Later that night, Olivia tucks Ethan into bed, whispering stories until his eyes close. Then she steps quietly onto the balcony, the city glittering beneath her. Alexander joins her, silent for a long time before finally saying, he hasn't called anyone that in a year. She turns to him. Kids feel things we can't explain. Sometimes they know when their hearts recognize kindness. He nods slowly. You've done something I couldn't. You've given him peace. Her voice softens. You've done more than you think. He just needs to see it. Their eyes meet for the first time. Not as employer and employee, but as two people carrying invisible scars. But the peace doesn't last long. Rumors begin to swirl through the company. Whispers of the CEO's mysterious nanny, of how she's seen leaving his penthouse late, of how the once cold executive seems strangely softer lately. Photos surface online, innocent moments of Olivia holding Ethan's hand in the park, twisted into gossip by people who crave scandal. Alexander's board demands a meeting. Vanessa fuels the fire. You're risking your reputation over a nobody, she snaps. He stands tall. She's done more for my son than anyone in this room. This isn't about your son, she fires back. It's about your image. The room falls into tense silence. Alexander's voice cuts through it, calm but powerful. My image means nothing if my child keeps suffering. That night, Olivia overhears part of the confrontation through the half-open study door. The realization hits her. She's become the center of a storm she never meant to start. When she returns to her small apartment that weekend, her own Ethan runs into her arms. Did they like you today, Mummy? She smiles, hiding the ache. They did, sweetheart, but her mind swirls with doubt. She never wanted to be a problem. She just wanted to help a little boy smile again. Meanwhile, back in the penthouse, Alexander tucks his son in. Where's Miss Olivia? Ethan asks sleepily. She'll be back soon, Alexander assures him. But the boy's lower lip trembles. Promise, he nods. Promise. Later, standing by the window, Alexander dials a number. This is Wexler. I want all media coverage scrubbed. And find out who leaked those photos. He's not sure when it happened, when the woman who came to help his son started haunting his thoughts. The way she listens, the way she stands up for herself, the way she doesn't seem impressed by his money, but genuinely worried for his boy. He doesn't want to admit it, but he's falling. And while he tries to fight it, fate is already setting the next twist in motion. Because just when everything seems fragile but hopeful, a storm brews, one that will test their bond, their courage, and every choice they've made. The morning headlines hit harder than any boardroom ambush. Wexler airs new mummy. CEO's nanny sparks media frenzy. The article splashes photos of Olivia carrying Ethan through the park, one where the boy hugs her neck, another where Alexander walks a step behind them. The captions are cruel, twisting tenderness into rumor. Alexander's phone buzzes non-stop. Reporters outside the tower, cameras flashing, questions thrown like knives. Mr. Wexler, are you in a relationship with your son's nanny? Is this the woman replacing your late wife? Inside the glass fortress of his office, Alexander's face is stone. His assistant hesitates at the door. Sir, the board wants to issue a statement. No, but the investors, I said no. His tone is sharp, final, but inside he's torn. Every word the media prints about Olivia feels like an attack on something he's barely begun to understand. At that same moment, Olivia's world collapses in a single scroll. She stares at the news article on her cracked phone, her stomach dropping. Her manager at the diner texts her, "Don't come in. We can't have your name tied to scandal." Her throat tightens, rent's due again. Bills stack on the counter. And now the world thinks she's a homewrecker chasing money she's never even dreamed of touching. That night, she goes to the Wexler building anyway. The security guard recognizes her immediately, sympathy flickering in his eyes. "They're not letting media in," he murmurs. "You sure you want to walk through that mess?" "I'm not running away," she says softly. When the elevator doors open to the penthouse, she hears raised voices. She's just a distraction. Vanessa's words slice through the air. "You've humiliated this company for a diner waitress with a sob story." "Enough, Vanessa," Alexander warns. "You can't protect her forever," she sneers. "She's not like us, Alex. She never will be. And your son calling her mummy, it's pathetic. You're letting a stranger rewrite your family." Olivia freezes at the doorway, heart pounding. She wants to disappear, to vanish before he sees her, but then Ethan's small voice cuts through the tension. Stop yelling. He stands there in his pajamas, clutching his toy airplane. Eyes wet. You're scaring her. Everyone turns. Olivia rushes to him, kneeling down. Hey, it's okay, sweetheart. He shakes his head. I don't want her to go. Vanessa exhales a cruel laugh. Oh, she go. Trust me. But before she can speak again, Alexander's voice booms. Get out. Vanessa's eyes widen. What did you just... I said. Levy steps closer, his composure breaking. I don't care about the press. I don't care about image. My son smiles again because of her, not because of you, not because of any of this. Vanessa stares at him, rage and disbelief burning in her face. You'll regret this, she hisses, heels clicking sharply as she storms out. Silence follows. Heavy, fragile, the kind that carries the weight of something irreversible. Olivia gathers her breath, standing slowly. I never meant to cause trouble. Alexander's voice is low, strained. You didn't, they did. But I'm the one in those pictures, Alexander. The one they're tearing apart. If I stay, it'll only make it worse for you. For Ethan. He steps closer, the distance between them thick with everything unsaid. If you leave, it'll break him. Her eyes fill with tears. Sometimes, doing the right thing hurts the most. Before he can respond, she turns and walks toward the elevator, her hands trembling. Ethan runs after her, voice breaking. Mummy, please don't go. The door closes between them. Back in her apartment, Olivia sits in darkness, the city lights flickering through her window. Ethan's laughter still echoes in her ears. She picks up the photo of her own son, the only thing keeping her from falling apart, and whispers, "It's just you and me again, buddy." But across town, in the penthouse, the other Ethan refuses to eat, refuses to sleep. He sits by the window for hours, clutching the blanket she used to tuck him in with. When Alexander tries to comfort him, the boy whispers, "You made her leave." That night, Alexander makes a decision that shocks his entire world. He walks out of a board meeting mid-presentation, ignoring the murmurs, ignoring the headlines. He drives to the diner, the one where she used to work, the neon sign flickering faintly above the closed door. Then he finds her small apartment run down, quiet, lights dim. When she opens the door, her breath catches. He's standing there in a tailored suit that looks out of place against the peeling paint behind her. "You shouldn't be here," she says quietly. "I had to." "For what?" "To make it worse." "For the truth," he answers. "They can say what they want about me, but not about you." She looks away, fighting tears. "I don't belong in your world." He shakes his head. "Neither do I." Half the time, the silence stretches. The air between them trembles with everything they're both too afraid to say. Then his phone buzzes again, another headline, another crisis. He ignores it. "You made my son believe in love again," he says softly. "And somewhere along the way, you made me remember it too." She steps back, shaking her head. "Don't say that. We both know how this ends. You'll fix your reputation. I'll disappear. That's how people like you survive." "People like me," he repeats, almost broken. "Do you think this is about money, power? It's about my son, Olivia. It's about the way he looks at you and feels safe again." Her voice cracks. "And what happens when that safety turns into scandal again? When the world decides I'm not good enough for him, for you?" He doesn't answer, because she's right. That night, he drives home alone. The city lights blurring into streaks of color through the windshield. In the back seat lies the drawing Ethan made, the one with the 3 stick figures and the word mommy scribbled underneath. When he gets home, he finds Ethan asleep on the couch again, clutching that same piece of paper. And in that moment, something inside him shifts. He picks up his phone, dials a number and says quietly, "Release a statement." The nanny's name is Olivia Harris. She's an honest woman who deserves respect. Anyone who prints lies about her, deal with them legally. The next morning, the world explodes again, but differently this time. Public opinion shifts. The internet floods with sympathy for Olivia, single mom just trying to raise her son and help a child heal. People begin to see her not as a scandal, but as a story of strength. Still, she doesn't return. She stays away, afraid that one wrong move could destroy everything she helped rebuild. Until one night, weeks later, there's a knock at her door. When she opens it, a small figure stands there, eyes wide. Ethan, behind him, Alexander, breathless, his tie loose, as if he's been running for blocks. "Daddy said I could come," Ethan says, holding a crumpled drawing. "I made this for you." She kneels down, heart racing, and takes the paper. It's another drawing, this time, 3 figures again. But above them, in shaky letters, "Family." Tears spill down her cheeks before she can stop them. Alexander's voice is low behind her. He wanted to bring it himself. She looks at him, trembling. "Why?" "Because he misses you," Alexander says. "And so do I." The silence stretches again, fragile but full of meaning. Olivia hugs Ethan tightly, feeling his little heartbeat against her chest. And as Alexander watches them, something finally feels right. Simple, human, unguarded. But neither of them knows what tomorrow will bring. Because behind the warmth of that reunion, the world's judgment hasn't gone quiet. It's only waiting for its next move. And this time, it won't just threaten their hearts. It'll threaten everything Alexander's built. Rain hammers the glass walls of the Wexler Tower like an angry crowd outside. The crisis room is filled with tension, executives whispering, screens flashing with news headlines, and Alexander standing in the center, silent but unshakable. "Sir, the board has called an emergency vote," one advisor says, voice trembling. "They want you to step aside until the investigation clears your name." Alexander doesn't flinch. Investigation for what? Improper hiring. Conflict of interest. "The media says she forged credentials." "That's a lie," he snaps. "I vetted her myself." But the room is already shifting against him. Men and women who once praised his every decision now avoid his gaze. Reputation is their currency and he's become a liability. He walks out before they can vote. The elevator doors close, and for the first time in years, he lets out a breath that sounds like defeat. Down in the street, reporters swarm like vultures, shouting questions he doesn't answer. Cameras flash, microphones thrust forward, all chasing one name, Olivia Harris. Across the city, Olivia sits in a cramped office at the Child Services Department. A stern-looking woman flips through a folder. "Ms. Harris, these allegations are serious. They claim you falsified your background." "I didn't," Olivia says quietly. "Every reference is real. I just didn't have the kind of jobs they respected." The woman sighs. "Unfortunately, the complaint came directly from the Wexler Group's internal auditors. We have to follow procedure." Olivia feels the ground tilt beneath her. She thinks of Ethan, not her own son this time, but the little boy who finally started laughing again. "Please," she whispers, "don't separate me from him. He's just a child caught in all this." That night, she sits by the window of her tiny apartment, lights from the city flickering like cold stars. Her son curls beside her on the couch, asleep. She strokes his hair, lost in thought. How did something so simple, caring for a lonely child, turn into a war of headlines and lies? Her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She hesitates, then answers. Miss Harris's voice says, low and controlled, "This is Marcus Doyle. I'm Mr. Wexler's counsel. He asked me to reach out privately. There's a hearing tomorrow morning. They plan to remove him as CEO." Olivia's chest tightens. "Because of me. Because he refused to distance himself from you." The lawyer replies, "He's protecting you, Miss Harris, and it's costing him everything." The line goes silent for a moment before Marcus adds, almost gently, "If you have anything that can clear your name, any evidence, now's the time." When the call ends, Olivia stares at the wall, mind racing. She remembers the day of her background check, how she'd handed over her paperwork to a woman in the HR department, a woman who had smiled too quickly, who had later leaked her address to a tabloid. Someone inside wanted her gone. By dawn, she's back on the subway, a folder in her bag. She doesn't have a plan, just a determination that's stronger than fear. At Wexler Tower, security tries to stop her, but Marcus meets her in the lobby. "You shouldn't be here," he warns. "I have proof," she says. In the boardroom upstairs, the atmosphere is electric with hostility. One of the senior partners slams a stack of papers down. "You've jeopardized this company for a woman who lied about her past." Alexander stepped down gracefully. "She didn't lie," he replies evenly. "You did." Murmurs ripple through the room. The board chair frowns. "What are you talking about?" Alexander gestures toward the door. "You can come in now." Olivia steps inside, soaked from the rain but steady. The entire room turns. Cameras flash from the back wall, internal documentation for the hearing. "I found this," she says, placing the folder on the table. Inside, forged complaint letters, fake employment histories, all traced to a single department, public relations, headed by Vanessa Monroe. Gasps echo. The chair scans the documents, eyes narrowing. "These signatures, they match the ones filed last month." Olivia nods. "She wanted me discredited. If I looked like a liar, your company could remove me quietly and no one would question why Mr. Wexler defended me." The room erupts in noise. Some try to argue, others whisper frantically. But the evidence is undeniable. Alexander looks at her not with triumph, but with gratitude deeper than words. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did," she says, "because this isn't just about me. It's about what's right." The board chair clears his throat. This hearing is adjourned. The charges are void. By noon, news outlets are reporting a very different story. False allegations exposed, CEO vindicated, former executive under investigation. But victory doesn't erase damage. The Wexler name has been dragged through weeks of scandal. Investors want calm. The world still stares. Later that evening, Alexander finds Olivia outside the building, waiting for a cab in the drizzle. "You could have stayed away," he says quietly. "I almost did," she admits. "But then I thought, if my own son grows up watching me run from lies, what does that teach him?" He nods slowly, respect in his eyes. "Ethan's been asking for you." Her expression softens. "How is he?" "Quiet, but better now that he knows the truth." He hesitates before speaking again. "The company wants me to step back for a few months. They think I need to rebuild public trust. Maybe they're right. Maybe it's time to remember what really matters." She studies him for a long moment. "Family," he nods, "and integrity." A car pulls up. She opens the door, then pauses. "Tell Ethan I'll visit when it's safe again. I don't want the cameras chasing him." I will. As she drives away, Alexander watches the taillights fade into the rain. For the first time in a long while, he feels something stronger than power, clarity. Days pass. The city calms, headlines move on to new targets. And in the quiet that follows, Olivia returns to normal life, her diner job, her small apartment, her boys' laughter filling the air again. One afternoon, there's a knock. When she opens the door, a deliveryman stands there with a small box and a note: "To Olivia Harris for teaching my son courage and reminding me what it means to lead with conscience. AW." Inside the box is a toy airplane identical to the one Ethan used to hold, painted with 3 tiny names written on the wings. Ethan, Olivia, courage. She sets it on the shelf beside her son's picture. He looks up. "Is that from your boss?" She smiles. "From a friend." Outside, the city hums on. The storm has passed, but its lessons remain, that truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it stands quietly, refusing to bend. And in a world obsessed with image, the rarest victory is keeping your soul intact. Months have passed. The chaos, the headlines, the cameras, all have finally faded into the background noise of a city that never stops moving. But the people at the center of it, they've changed. Alexander Wexler stands in the glass lobby of his company, no longer the untouchable CEO in the perfect suit, but a quieter, steadier man. His reflection in the marble floor doesn't carry the same arrogance, just resolve. The empire he built is smaller now, humbler, but cleaner. He's rebuilt it with honesty instead of fear. Outside the boardroom, the company's newest project looms on the digital display, the Wexler Foundation for Families, focused on supporting single parents, education, and children affected by loss. Reporters gather, but this time the story isn't about scandal, it's about redemption. Alexander adjusts the microphone, his voice calm but firm. "I built a company that measured success by numbers, but the people who reminded me of what truly matters weren't shareholders, they were 2 children and a woman who refused to stop doing what was right." Flashes go off, cameras clicking rapidly. He continues, "This foundation isn't charity, it's a promise that no parent should have to choose between honesty and survival, that no child should suffer because adults forgot how to care." His speech spreads across social media within hours. The same feeds that once tore him apart now carry his words like wildfire. Comments flood in, not gossip this time, but gratitude. People begin to talk about him differently. But for Alexander, the noise means nothing. Because later that evening, after the press leaves, he drives quietly to a familiar neighborhood on the other side of the city. It's raining again, a soft drizzle that glows under the streetlights. He steps out of the car, holding a small gift bag. When Olivia opens her door, she's surprised but not shocked. "You should be celebrating," she says with a tired smile. "I already did," he replies. "Now I'm just saying thank you." Her apartment hasn't changed much, still small, still cluttered with life. Her son sits on the floor coloring, waving when he sees Alexander. "Hi, Mr. Wexler." Alexander kneels to the boy's level. "Hey champ, how's school?" "Good. Mommy helped me make a volcano. Bet it exploded everywhere," he says, laughing softly. Olivia crosses her arms, half amused, half emotional. "What's in the bag?" He hands it to her. Inside is a framed photo, the one taken months ago at the park. The same image that once fueled gossip is now clean, restored, and mounted with care. Below it, a small inscription: "Some stories survive the noise." She stares at it, blinking hard. "Why would you keep this?" "Because it reminds me where I started over." They sit in silence for a while. No tension, no awkwardness, just quiet understanding. "I didn't know you were naming the foundation after that," she says. He shrugs. "It felt right. You taught me something I couldn't learn from a boardroom, that compassion isn't weakness, it's leadership." Her voice softens. "You didn't need me for that." "Maybe not, but I needed the reminder." A faint knock interrupts them. Little Ethan, the other Ethan, peeks from behind the doorframe holding a small paper airplane. He looks up at Olivia's son shyly. "Can I play too?" The 2 boys laugh instantly, scattering crayons and paper like they've known each other forever. Watching them, Olivia feels something warm settle in her chest. Not romantic, not longing, just peace. "They're both happier now," she says quietly. Alexander nods. "Kids don't care about money or power. They just want to feel safe. That's something I forgot along the way." He stands to leave, but she stops him with a small smile. "You don't have to carry everything alone, you know. Even the strongest people need someone to remind them why they started." He smiles faintly. "I think I finally understand that." As he leaves, the rain eases into mist. Olivia watches from the window as his car disappears around the corner. Her son tugs her sleeve. "Mommy, are we famous now?" She laughs softly. "No, sweetheart, we're just lucky." Weeks later, the Wexler Foundation hosts its first event, a gathering for working parents and children from across the city. Olivia is invited as a guest speaker, but she nearly declines. When she finally walks onto the stage, her heart races. The room falls quiet as she begins to speak. "I'm not a business person. I'm not rich or powerful. I'm just a mom who once got tired of pretending that love and patience weren't enough." Her voice shakes, but she continues. "People called me names. They said I didn't belong in a place like this. But what I learned is that belonging isn't about money. It's about purpose. The crowd rises in applause, not polite, but genuine. Alexander stands near the back, hands in his pockets, watching quietly as pride replaces the exhaustion in his eyes. Afterward, the two boys run around the hall, giggling, dragging balloons behind them. One of the photographers captures the moment, the children laughing, their parents standing nearby, the skyline glowing through the windows. The image becomes the cover of an article titled, "From Scandal to Strength: How Truth Rebuilt the Wexler Legacy." Months turn into seasons. The foundation grows, funding schools and housing programs. Olivia continues working there, managing the family support division. Alexander steps back from the corporate world, choosing to spend time mentoring young entrepreneurs instead of chasing stock prices. Their paths cross often: meetings, events, charity drives. But it's no longer a story of rescue or difference. It's partnership, respect, shared history that taught them both humility. One spring afternoon, the two children present their science project together, a homemade rocket made from recycled parts. When it launches successfully, the crowd cheers. Alexander claps, laughing for real this time, the sound echoing through the courtyard. Olivia looks at him and says quietly, "They did it." He nods, because they believed they could. As the rocket disappears into the blue, a breeze sweeps across the field, light, calm, final. The same city that once tore them apart now stands witness to something bigger, proof that truth survives, even when fame, money, and rumor try to bury it. Because in the end, the world didn't remember the scandal. It remembered the story of a man who learned to lead with conscience, of a woman who refused to give up on kindness, and of two children who reminded them both what love, in its purest form, looks like. And as the screen fades to black, a single line appears, the same one carved into the foundation's entrance wall. Sometimes, the smallest acts of care change the biggest lives.